In this story, Hidden Tab exposed my wife's cheating with her dominant boss, ghosted her and made her life miserable. I've been married to my wife, Jilly, for 11 years. Prior to that, we dated for more than 7 years. We shared a very healthy and understanding relationship. We have always been each other's friends. We were college buddies before we started dating. Everything was going fine in our life until Jilly got a new boss, John. The first week of his joining, Jilly comes back home and goes nonstop about him. She talks about how he's such a nice boss, appreciating and nurturing every employee, making everyone feel good about themselves, and how he's so caring and visionary about employees' futures, blah, blah, blah. Initially, I heard it with enthusiasm, but then it started bothering me because she no longer asked about my day. I thought it was temporary, and she would soon stop gushing over him. It happened that way. After a few weeks, she did stop talking about him, but she also stopped talking to me. Yes, she got cold and distant from me. Not something very evident or noticeable, but in a subtle way. I think I didn't pay heed to her changed behavior immediately. But now that I know the entire story and look back, I think I got a cold vibe at the start. I didn't figure out that it was cheating. I only noticed it when it became persistent, and she showed some other red flags. She soon started coming home late from work very often. This was also not unusual because she is into finance, and during some banking cycles, she used to work overnight and until late hours. She started going out more with her work friends. Again, this was quite normal because we both hang out with our work friends. You see, she wasn't doing anything very different, just that she was doing all this stuff more than before, and she was neglecting me. She became resentful of me. Our sex life became non-existent. I was getting a vibe that something was wrong, but one doesn't start suspecting their partner at the drop of a hat. I discussed this with my close friends, and they said it might just be a phase, and every couple goes through these ups and downs now and then, so I shouldn't be worrying. They suggested that I should rekindle my marriage and do something romantic for her. One of my friends suggested that I recreate our old memories because women like this stuff. Our anniversary was not anytime soon, nor was it her birthday. My best friend reminded me that the anniversary of our graduation day was next week, and on that same day, Jill and I had our first sex. We had sneaked out of the graduation party and went to her grandparents' place, who were out of town. That night, I had made her favorite hamburgers, so I decided to recreate that stuff. I came home early from work, made her hamburgers and apple pie, bought lilies and white wine, and decorated the living room with fancy dim lights, all of it her favorite. She comes home and is delighted to see all the arrangements. She hugs me and kisses me like crazy, I tell you. It was all fakey because a few minutes into this, she makes a puppy face, and I ask her what happened. She said that she actually came home to change. Her colleagues were throwing a farewell party for one of the senior managers, and she had to leave. Obviously, I got upset, but she assured me that she would be back in a couple of hours. I said okay and didn't create a scene. It was 8 when she left, promising to come back before midnight. Her 2 hours became 4, but I didn't say anything. I kept waiting until midnight, but there was no sign of hers. I wanted to call or text her, but my self-respect stopped me. Finally, at 2, I shut down all the lights, kept all the food in the container, and went to sleep. I was feeling stupid for trying this hard to get my marriage on track, but it looked like it was just me who was trying. It was already dawn when she slowly crawled into the room and slipped into the bed. She made bare movements not to wake me up. I pretended to be asleep. When she woke up in the morning, I asked her when she came last night, and very casually she said it was around 1:32 a.m. I gave her a cold stare and said that I was up until 2:30. She said she was drunk and tired and didn't remember the exact time, but it was definitely before dawn. It was a plain lie. Before I could say anything, she acted defensive. She said, "Why are you interrogating me in this way? This isn't the first time I went out with work friends, and you two go out with yours. What's so big a deal about it?" She was right. There was no big deal about it, but the circumstances at which all these were happening were definitely messy. Not very proud to admit this, but the next day, I snooped into her phone. I straight went to see the chats with John, her boss. I didn't find anything filthy, but I sensed that the chats were deleted in between because the conversations halted abruptly. I checked her gallery but couldn't find anything. I scrolled through all the chats. There was a group chat between the people who went to the party last night. I found that everyone's last text that they had reached home safely came before 12, except for John and my wife. When everyone pushed off before midnight, what the hell was she doing for the whole night with John? Any confrontation with this half-baked information was useless, so I started hunting for more evidence. I got a GPS tracker to install in her car, but the task was securing her car off her eyes. I asked her if the car needs servicing or so. She seemed very guarded about it, more guarded than her phone. It made me suspicious. So, when she was asleep, I sneaked into her car to install the GPS device, and something in me pushed me to scavenge her car, and I did that. I found a tab hidden in the back seat. Luckily, it didn't need any password, and I was able to access the file. Oh my god, what I saw next made me throw up. There were naked pictures and videos of Jilly, which she had sent to her boss. Not only that, there were videos of her boss sending her instructions on different types of kink positions, how he wanted the videos, and how he would be treating her in the next session. I took all of those as evidence and slipped off the car. I didn't have the strength to go home and see her, on which her boss had been coming. I went to my friend and showed him a glimpse of those pictures. He was our common friend from college, and he too was shocked to find Jill involved in such activities. He patched me up with a lawyer because I was too distorted to do that myself. His distant cousin was a divorce lawyer, and we were able to ditch the queue and get a slot on the same day. The lawyer started the paperwork on the grounds of infidelity but said it would take 2 weeks to process it. I was just not ready to go home. My friend offered me a place in his spare room, and I accepted. I dropped her a text that I would be off for a work trip for 10 days. She responded with just an okay. Now I'm just waiting for the divorce papers to arrive so that I can shove that on her face and get out of this. Update. One thing took an unexpected turn during that 15-day wait period. I already had all the evidence of cheating, so tracking her car was useless. Yet, I did that. As soon as she got to know that I was out of town, she rushed to her kink lover's place to give him a suck. I tracked her for a week or so, but then suddenly the device stopped fetching the data, and I got a text from Gilly. So this is your plan, followed by a series of apologies and promises of breaking things off with both and becoming a good wife. I ignored all of it. I wanted to ghost her, but now my plan was ruined. This made me angrier. I blocked her from all channels, but emailed her that she would be receiving the divorce papers soon, and all communication between us should happen through my lawyer. When the papers reached her, she again spammed my inbox. Gradually, the apologies changed into pleadings where she requested for one last meeting before signing the papers. She even threatened that she wouldn't sign it until I met her once. My lawyer suggested that if one meeting could expedite the process, then I should consider it. I agreed to meet at a public place. She came with puffy eyes and a miserable face. She started the conversation saying, "I know I ruined everything. I feel disgusted about myself. I'm a bad person and don't deserve forgiveness. I'm not sure if this is going to help, but I have left the job and have stopped seeing that man." I said, "It doesn't really matter to me." I sat quietly, and she kept ranting about the same stuff, how she was so sorry about the entire thing. She nudged me for a response, and I asked her just one question. Why? She broke down again and struggled for words. I cautioned her to speak the truth and no manipulation. She said the boss had an enchanting personality and had an aura to attract anyone in the office. Women were gushing over him, but he showed his interest in me. I felt like a winner. He made advances on me and said that I was the most attractive one in the office, and he couldn't shake his head away from me. I fell for it. He was a dominant personality and often gave me submissive tasks a plus rated, which brought a thrill down my nerves, and I enjoyed it. I asked that she was never into BDSM. And in the initial years of marriage when I suggested it, she refused it, and I accepted her decision. Then what had happened now? She said it was different. It was thrilling because John could have chosen anyone in the office. The young women were luring over him, but he chose me, a woman older than him. I felt special and competitive and did everything to please him. She closed by saying, "I know all this is disgusting, but you wanted to know the truth, and this is the truth." She tried to shift the blame on the boss that he manipulated her into this, which might be true to some extent, but the bigger and uglier truth was that she enjoyed it. She sobbed uncontrollably, berating herself. I won't deny that I felt a pang of sympathy witnessing her in such a wretched state, but I remained resolute. Rising to my feet, she grasped my hand, seeking the slightest possibility of reconciliation. Firmly, I declined and departed. 2 days later, she dispatched the duly signed divorce papers along with the house key to my lawyer, accompanied by a lengthy, heartfelt email bidding me farewell. That email stirred deep emotions in me, reducing me to tears like an infant. She, the woman I had cherished for numerous years, had dealt me this blow. Imagining a life without her is heart-wrenching. Yet it is the path I've chosen for us. The divorce proceedings are underway. Whether I can ever truly move on remains uncertain, for my love for her persists. However, considering the way she has trampled over me, I doubt I'll ever allow her to come close again. Thank you for providing unwavering support. I'll keep you updated on any developments in the thread. Second story, unwittingly ruining the mistress's birthday party. This is a situation from my younger, more naive days when I failed to recognize I was being deceived until later. There was a particular restaurant I had longed to visit. My husband informed me that his friend, a girl within our social circle, had invited us to her birthday party there with about 25 guests. The birthday girl, accompanied by her look-alike sister whom I had never met, gave off strange vibes. They couldn't seem to stop laughing at me. While she was typically superficially polite, that night was different. Despite residing in a large city, a few months after our move, she coincidentally found an apartment on our same street, just 2 buildings down. Once again, my youth played a role in my obliviousness. As the party unfolded, it descended into chaos due to unrelated reasons involving cocaine, alcohol, and drama. Feeling a certain impulsivity, I decided to worsen the situation. I struck up a friendship with her most attractive female friend, who was under the influence of cocaine, and promptly began gossiping about the birthday girl. She then invited me to the ladies' room. The 4 of us found ourselves locked in a unisex stall when I heard my husband attempting to break down the door because one of the 4 people was a guy. The situation became a source of amusement for everyone, and I stepped outside for a cigarette, even though I didn't smoke. My husband, visibly upset, demanded to know if I was cheating on him with the guy in the stall. Witnessing this, the birthday girl burst into tears and fled. Later, I learned that several guests had neglected to bring presents or contribute tips, leaving her to cover all the expenses and resulting in a ruined night for her. Subsequently, I discovered that he had been cheating with her even before we got married and throughout our 8-year marriage. He went on to marry someone new after our divorce. I can't help but wonder if the birthday girl is still a part of the picture. Today's story is about girlfriend cheated with her boss's husband, just when Opus was thinking of marrying her and calling to ask her dad's permission. Can you believe it? Well, my friends, go to the story and listen to her tale. I first met Bob about 2 years ago. He walked into the restaurant where I worked as a hostess, and we talked while he waited for the rest of his party to arrive. He was tall, kind of thin but muscular, and had a great smile, but he was obviously kind of shy. I could tell even then because from the way he spoke to me, with indirect little compliments, not being able to look me in the eye, that he was interested. The more aggressive guys would have taken my constant rubbing on them and touching them and had me at their apartment already, but this was a refreshing change. This was a guy who wanted to actually get to know me, period. I'm cute, but I'm not supermodel. My name is Brenda. I'm 5'4" and weigh about 160. I have a nice thin waist, thick gorgeous legs, long dark hair, and a killer smile. According to Bobby, my eyes, a deep crystalline green, are my best feature with my lips a close second. At least that's what he says. But whenever we made love, it wasn't my eyes or my smile he was grabbing and concentrating on. Anyway, as the night progressed, I could tell that Bobby wasn't comfortable there. The group that he was a part of was obviously his co-workers, and though his work was praised several times, he just didn't seem to be that into the whole party thing. So I decided to rescue him. I approached their table and told him that he had an emergency phone call. He looked shocked and said that no one knew he was here. As he left the table, I followed closely behind him and ushered him into our employee lounge. "Where's the phone?" he asked. "Well, I began. You seemed a little uncomfortable, so I thought that I would get you out of there. If you want to go back, just tell them that it was nothing and continue with your party. But if you do want to leave, I'll go back and tell them that you were called away." "What do I have to pay you for doing this?" he asked nervously. I quickly wrote down my phone number on a piece of paper and said, "Call this number tomorrow and we'll see what happens." Bobby left the restaurant, and I went back to his table and explained that he had been called away. I didn't give a reason so that he could tell them whatever he wanted and there'd be no conflicts in our stories. The next day, Bobby called me and I wheedled my way into a date. We had so much fun that I didn't want it to ever end. He did things for me that the thin, pretty girls take for granted and bigger girls get only before we put out, if ever. He was a perfect gentleman and I loved the way he looked at me. Oh sure, I sometimes wished that he was a little more forceful, but I was crazy about him, so it didn't matter. Our first kiss was great. He closed his eyes and placed his lips against mine with a gentleness that I still remember today. When we broke the kiss after what seemed like forever, but was probably only a few seconds, the look in his eyes told me everything I needed to know. This was my guy, and I was his. Update. Over the next few months, our relationship progressed at its own pace. We kissed more and often. We made out. And finally, long after I was ready for it, we had sex. I don't know why it took us so long, but it was great. I was kind of expecting to have him disappear afterwards like so many guys do. When Bobby showed up the next morning before he went to work, which had never happened before, I was expecting him to break things off since he'd had his ride. I almost tried to avoid him just so I could enjoy the glow from the sex for a little longer before the crushing blow. He looked so sad and then hugged me and gave me flowers and told me I was the most special thing he'd ever seen. I almost cried. I was so happy because I was just not used to this. A few months later, Bobby got really serious and scared, and I got nervous again. My mind told me that even this saint of a man had just gotten enough, big girl, and was ready to move on. Just go ahead and say it, I told him. My voice was harsher than I wanted it to be because I thought I knew what was coming. Brenda, I have a problem, he said. So what's your problem? You want to skin your girlfriend, right? He looked kind of shaken. You mean after we duck, you what? I asked. As you can see, I was ready, or so I thought. Well, I don't want to leave you. I just want us to be together more. So I was hoping. Boom, I know you're not ready to get married, you said, but my head exploded. Did he mention marriage? I was hoping we could live together, he said. I was shocked. I knew I was pretty, and there were some men who liked my body. Actually, most men liked my body, but they only wanted it on a trial basis. Bobby, on the other hand, really loved me. I sat there with my mouth open. I was 27 years old, had probably ducked at least 15 or 20 guys. But I had never been anyone's girlfriend before Bobby, and now not only had he mentioned marriage, but he wanted me to live with him. Half the guys I ducked didn't even want to be seen with me afterwards, and this guy wanted me to be solely his, permanently. Over the years, as you can tell, I developed a tough skin out of necessity, but that night it disappeared. Our relationships did have one glaring problem, but it was minor. We were compatible in every way that matters, and rarely argue. He was content to spend most of his time just being with me. Of course, a lot of that time we spent in bed, but we were both happy, so who cares? Our biggest problem was Bobby's shyness. He almost hated to be around people. I'm not talking about parties. I'm talking about any group of people where he didn't know or feel comfortable with everyone there. It took him 8 months to build up the courage to meet my parents. When it came to going out with my friends or co-workers, well, I was becoming a hermit. For the most part, it didn't bother me. I was finally in love and with a great guy. I wanted all of my friends to at least see him once or twice. I'd tried on several occasions to make it happen, but there was always something that came up. Usually it would come up at the last minute, so he couldn't make it. I always ended up going alone or not going. Some of my co-workers were beginning to think the photo on my desk was a fake. I'd hear the meaner ones talking behind my back. Really, who would want to be with him, or those fat girls will say anything. So when Rochelle Davenport, our district manager, had a big party planned at her house, I put my foot down. Bobby, I said, if you can't manage to spend one evening with my coworkers for me, then maybe you don't love me as much as you claim to. Maybe this relationship has no future. I'll do it, he said sadly. The expression on his face told me that maybe I'd pushed him too far, but he'd agreed to it. So whatever, you're a great guy, baby. I just want to share you with my friends for one night, I said. You're handsome. You've got a great job, a great car, and my friends will love you, I assured him. So 2 nights later, Bobby dressed in a pair of dress pants and a jacket and waited for me on the couch in our living room. It used to be his living room, but we both live there now. It of course took me longer to get ready than it did for him to wash his 8 Mustang GT, shower, and get dressed. This was mainly because I was pulling out all of the stops this time. I wanted everyone to see me with my sweetie, but I wanted them to know that I was a beautiful, desirable woman. In short, for one night I wanted them to see me the way he did. When we got to Rochelle's house, as we got out of the car, all eyes were on us. First they looked at me. My dress was tight enough, but the thing that drew the most attention was my man. They'd all heard the stories of shy, reclusive Bobby, but most of them didn't believe he existed, and the few that did thought that there had to be something wrong with him for him to be with me. Most of them thought I was a trifle big, and the ones that realized that I was just voluptuous thought I was a whore. When Bobby came around and took my hand, the evening was sealed. Rochelle dragged her emaciated ass over to greet us almost as soon as we parked on her lawn. Her husband, I'd heard him described as a hot older guy, was with her. He was definitely older, but the hot part, not so much. He was a little too grandpa monster for me. He took my hand and welcomed me to their home. Their house was huge. It was like a European castle dropped into the suburbs. After Bobby and I made the rounds, which meant I dragged him around to make sure every single living organism at the party, including the pets, saw us together. He quickly retreated into the shadows in a corner. I wanted him to be more ducking outgoing for just one night. I had to give serious consideration to what my future would be like with him. Now that most of the guys there had seen me with him, and Bobby was kind of hot, maybe I could upgrade. Several of the women present had tried to make a run at him, and he quickly rebuffed their attentions. During the evening, I noticed that whenever my glass was empty, Rochelle's husband was there in a second to refill it. By the time he offered to give me a tour of their house and the grounds, I was feeling no pain. As soon as we got upstairs away from the crowd, I noticed his hand on my ass, and it was no accident. I've heard a lot about you, he breathed into my ear. Like what? I asked. If it hadn't been for all of the liquor, I'd have moved his hand a long time ago. But the combination of liquor and frustration was amazing. Like maybe you'd be better with an older lion as opposed to a younger mouse. He leaned in and kissed me. It felt really good to have someone go after what they wanted. He didn't wait. He didn't ask, he just saw what he wanted and took it. My failure to stop him only led to him becoming even bolder. The next thing I remembered, he had me in a room upstairs on my back, making out like we were teenagers. We only stopped when someone opened the door and looked in looking for the bathroom. "Hey, Brenda, your honey was looking for you." That tore it for me right then. Bobby couldn't even hold a conversation with a few people that were important to me for a few minutes. I locked the door and noticed that I felt kind of woozy as I stepped back towards the bed. I looked at the clock next to the bed. Had I really been away from the party for nearly an hour? The clock must be wrong, I wasn't that drunk. As I stretched out on the bed, I noticed that Phil was already undressed. "Pretty sure of yourself, aren't you?" I asked. "Nope, just pretty sure of you," he smirked. I wonder what he meant by that, but I didn't have time or the inclination to figure it out. Old Phil pushed me down. The way he had me feeling right now was as if I was just some whore he'd picked up. But because I was drunk, and because it was so different, I decided to go with it for a while longer. This was so bad. The only thing good about it was that it was over quickly. I just laid there trying to figure out what I was going to do. I didn't want Bobby to know about this at all. Plus there was the problem of Rachel. If she found out about this and didn't believe me, she might even fire me. So I just lay there and finally fell asleep. Update 1. The next thought I had was that there was someone talking. When I opened my eyes, I noticed that it was light again. That meant it was morning and I'd been here all night. Where was Bobby? How would I explain this? I heard the voices again. "What did you say her name was again?" asked Phil in a loud whisper. "It's Brenda. Now go get her out of here," replied Rachel. "Well, you invited her. Why can't you get rid of her?" winded Phil. "You ducked her and left her here, so it's your problem." "It's only my problem because her little boyfriend turned you down," said Phil. "If he was here, he'd be my problem, so she's yours." "But she works for you. Why can't you do it?" asked Phil in a quiet voice. "You didn't seem to have any problem talking to her last night," said Rachel. "Oh, you know how it is. Every once in a while you want a big one," she continued. "She wasn't even good though," whined Phil. "If I had paid anything, I'd want my money back." "Hey, her eyes are open. Go ahead," said Rachel. At that point, Phil came over to the bed and I noticed that the daylight didn't do much for him. He definitely looked much worse in the morning. "Hey, Bonnie," he said, smiling. "Brenda," I said. "Whatever, I called you a cab. Shouldn't you get dressed?" he asked. I asked, "Oh, your honey boy. He left last night," said Phil in a frustrated tone. "Took one look at you sprawled out there and just ran out," he continued. "Several of the ladies at the party offered to go home with him, but no soap," he said. "Rachel knows you ducked me." I asked. "Of course, we have an open marriage. That's the point of these parties, to try out different people and different things. They add a little fire to our relationship," he said proudly. "Actually, we hate each other so much, we couldn't even think about having sex," he said. "The only reason we don't get a divorce is because we'd be worse off alone," he said. "A pretty messed up relationship. That's why it's open," he said. "Well, I'm pretty sure it's messed up mine. It's going to take a lot to get him to forgive this." "I don't think he will," said Phil. "He seems like the true blue type," Phil said. "You know, like he was madly in love with you. Like you were he laughed his dream girl or something. I'm sure seeing you laying there with your legs all open just broke his little heart." He laughed again. I turned around and looked at him. "Why would you let him come in here?" I asked. "I didn't. Rachel did. He turned her down flat and she really wanted him. A lot of the women at the party did. But he wasn't having it. He said he loved you, and he's going to marry you." He laughed again. "So Rachel brought him up here to show him that you've had no problem doing it, so he should too," said Phil. "She can be a really vindictive bitch when she wants something," he laughed. "So the two of you just ducked up my life for the fun of it." I hissed. "Hey, you're a big girl. A very big girl. You knew why we came up here," he replied. "You know what they say. A fool and her honey are soon parted," he smirked. I got what was left of my clothes and put them on, and of course my dress was ruined and would no longer close. I found my cell phone in my purse. I called Bobby because I didn't want him to see me like this. It would only make things worse. I was hoping that he'd gone to work so I could slip into our place and fix myself up. Then I'd call him and be waiting for the confrontation when he got home. This would be our first major fight, but I was sure if I promised him it would never ever happen again. Maybe in time we'd get past this. Bobby didn't pick up. In fact, my call went straight to voicemail as if his phone was turned off. Bobby never turned his phone off. He always answered my call on the first ring. He was obviously angry. The cab arrived. I spotted Rachel on my way out. I don't know what made me do it, but seeing that skinny woman standing there smirking at me caused me to have a temporary loss of brain function. So as I passed her, I just took a swing at her and knocked her flat on her skinny. I got into the cab holding my dress together and with as much dignity as I could muster gave the driver my address. He must have been trying for a big tip because he didn't say a single word to me. He just drove. Update 2. When I got to our building, though everything seemed normal, I felt a sense of dread. I looked around and didn't see Bobby's Mustang in our parking spot, so he wasn't here. That was a good thing, I thought. As I got to our floor, I saw that someone was moving in or moving out. There were a lot of suitcases lining the halls. They look like our luggage, but then most suitcases really do look the same. I got my keys from my purse. Rochelle and her ducking husband hadn't heard the last of this, but first I had to straighten out my life. For some strange reason, I couldn't get my key in the lock. Maybe I was still slightly drunk. I concentrated and it just didn't fit. I stopped all the way down to the first floor to the building manager. Mr. Colte was home, luckily. I knocked on his door and the door opened. "Mr. Colte, there's something wrong with my key. I can't get in," I said. He didn't even open his door all the way, which was unusual. He was one of the most open, friendliest people we knew. "There's nothing wrong with your key, miss," he said. "Miss?" I wondered. When did I become miss? Then why won't it fit in the lock? I asked in my most polite tone. "Because the locks were changed at the request of the tenant of record," he said. "And in the middle of the night, I might add." I couldn't think. I started crying. And when he saw this, Mr. Colte just shook his head and closed his door. I called Bobby again and left a message for him. I told him how sorry I was and how he didn't understand what had happened. I told him that I loved only him and that I'd do anything to make it up to him. Then, with no one else to turn to, I called my mom. Before she got there, I went back up to the hall outside the apartment and changed into some other clothes. She drove me back to her house without saying a word. As we got in, I guess the silence was too much for her. "What did you do?" she asked. "What? A guy you barely know locks me, your own daughter, out of our apartment, and all you want to know is what did I do? Brenda, your dad and I aren't stupid. We know about the life you used to lead, and even though we only met him once, we really thought that Bobby was the guy for you. He loves you so much, and after he called us 2 days ago, we just assumed." "He called you?" I asked. "Yep, 3 times, she said. The first call he just hung up. I guess he didn't remember that with caller ID we knew who he was, but then he called back and it was the cutest thing I'd ever seen. So old-fashioned too," she said. "What was?" I asked. "Well, he said that he was going to do something for you, Brenda. Something that he really was afraid to do, felt really uncomfortable with, but you really wanted it and you'd promised to do anything he wanted in exchange. We were thinking, oh my God, he's gonna make her do something really kinky. But he was calling to ask your dad's permission to ask you to marry him. Can you believe that? Nobody does that anymore." When she said that, I felt the tears well up and my chest got tight. The 3rd time he called, he wanted to show me the ring he'd gotten for you, so I could tell him whether or not you'd like it. You'd have to be crazy not to. "What did you think when you first saw it?" she asked. Then I started crying, and my mom asked me again, "What did you do? Brenda, please tell me you didn't turn him down. Brenda, I'm your mother and I love you, but you're not getting any younger. You're cute, but you may never get another offer this good. He's a really nice young man. He's handsome. He's got a good job, and he obviously loves you. That boy really thinks you're something special. Why wouldn't you marry him?" she demanded. My mom's mouth dropped open as if she'd just realized something. "That's why you've never brought any boys home to meet us." She stuck her hand over her mouth and looked at me and then said, "You're a lesb." "No, Mom, I'm not a lesb. I'm a slut," I answered. "Then why haven't you brought any guys home?" "Sluts get lots of guys," she replied. "Mom, they don't want a relationship with me. They just want to duck me." "Bobby was the first one that wanted to stick around," I said. "Then why didn't you want to marry him?" "Mom, it's a long story. Right now I just want to sleep." I called in and told my boss that I wouldn't be in for a couple of days. I thought I heard laughter in the background as I hung up. Then I called Bobby and left another message for him to please call me. I tried calling his job, but the lady who answered the phone asked who I was and after a moment asked me to leave a message. When I asked her if he was at work, she said that company policy forbid the release of any information about their employees. "But just yesterday you told me exactly which restaurant he was having lunch at and gave me directions," I said. "It's a new policy," she said. Then she told me to have a nice day, bish, and hung up. I called Bobby again and left yet another message. Then I tried to go to sleep, but I just couldn't get comfortable. I wasn't used to this bed and I wasn't used to sleeping without him. I couldn't believe how much I missed him wrapping his arms around me. Finally, I drifted off to sleep, but it didn't last long. Then I heard my cell phone ring and woke up. I tried to get to the phone before it stopped ringing, but I couldn't find it in time. I dropped the phone on the bed and it started ringing again. "Hello, Bobby," I said into the phone breathlessly. "Nope, it's Tina," said the voice. Tina was one of the women I worked with. She was more of an acquaintance than a friend, so I was wondering why the duck she'd be calling me. "What do you want, Tina? How are you feeling, Brenda?" "Well, Brenda, seeing as how you've probably broken up with that Bobby guy, I was wondering if you'd be interested in making a trade." "What the duck are you talking about?" "Well, a girl like you can't be too choosy, so I was thinking I'll give you my brother's phone number and you give me Bobby's." I hung up the phone. Tina's brother Matt was married and had 3 kids, 2 of them with his wife, another with one of their teenage neighbors. Final update. Did everyone know about last night? I called Bobby and left another message. This made the 10th one I left. I wondered whether he was listening to them and just didn't want to call me back, or if he just hadn't get the messages yet. I called the number for his voicemail service and entered his security PIN number. I listened to all of his messages. Most of them were from me, but there were 3 that got my attention. One was a message from the jewelry store that told him that he couldn't return the ring because it had been inscribed, but maybe they could cover the inscription or change it if he found someone new. The next was from one of those skanks he worked with telling him she'd seen him in his office, and she thought he looked like he needed cheering up, so she was asking him out to lunch or dinner, his choice. The bish even told him that if he chose dinner he could upgrade to the deluxe package that included breakfast at her place for no extra charge. I should walk over there and dot out of that bish, I thought. But it was the last message that really hurt me. It was from his mother, and she told him that she loved him, and she hoped he'd feel better soon. She told him that she understood what he had lost. But sometimes the best way to get over a bad situation was to start again. Then she told him about some floozy he used to go out with who'd been back from college for a couple of years, and that maybe he should give her a call when he felt ready. It seemed like the whole world was ready to write me off, but I was determined to put this behind us and get him back. I guess this is where I should start putting together my nefarious plan to get back at Phil and Rochelle for what they did to my relationship. But there was nothing I could do. Phil didn't want me because he really liked skinny women like Rochelle. Rochelle didn't care that Phil ducked me because she knew that every once in a while he just wanted to stick it to a big girl for a change of pace. I didn't ever want to see Phil again, and sex with him was revolting. It just made me miss Bobby more. I called Bobby thousands of times until one day he just changed his number and I couldn't get the new one. I tried waiting by the apartment, but he'd pull away every time he saw me and they wouldn't let me inside the building. I couldn't get in the building he worked in either. Then one day it happened. I saw the Mustang pull up and Bobby got out. He'd gotten his hair cut and he looked great. He hadn't seen me yet and he walked around to the passenger side. He reached in and a girl got out of the car. He took her hand and crushed my heart all in the same movement. She was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. But the thing that hurt the most was the way she looked at him. She looked at him the way he used to look at me, and he gave her that look right back. I knew then that it was over between Bobby and me. There was no way I'd ever get him back. That was 3 years ago and I still think about him now. I have a full life though. I go to work, still at the same restaurant chain. I got a bit depressed over Bobby for a while, and did pick up a bit of weight, so I'm no longer a hostess, but I'm the best dishwasher they have. Outside of work I put in a lot of time posting ads. I know that there's another Bobby out there somewhere. I just have to find him. I also moved into an apartment right down the street from Bobby's place. It's not too close because I don't want to be accused of stalking them or anything. Besides, with my telescope I can see right in their windows. It's almost like I was there with them. I'm just waiting for that bish to make a mistake. And she will, because she's only human. We can all be fooled or be a fool under the right circumstances, and a fool and her honey will soon part. Thank you for being a part of our journey, and we look forward to sharing more powerful stories with you in the future. We encourage you to subscribe to our channel and stay connected with our community. Remember, this channel exists because of your support, and I want it to be a place where we can all come together, learn, and have a great time. Your feedback is vital, and I appreciate every single suggestion and comment you provide. Take care of yourself and see you soon. Second story. My boyf cheated on me for 28 months of our relationship. We began our relationship with a long-distance dynamic, as he pursued his undergrad abroad while I embarked on my master's degree. The introduction of a new group of friends with a higher ratio of guys to girls during my studies made him insecure. Consequently, he engaged in inappropriate conversations, including sexting and sharing explicit images, with a girl he met on Tinder before me. This wasn't an isolated incident, as there was another woman he had been involved with before me. During my Miami trip with the same group of friends, where I made a mistake while under the influence and promptly confessed, he experienced further insecurity and planned to meet this woman. I later discovered there were likely other instances of infidelity during the first year of our relationship. As time went on, he moved to a different city, and our relationship remained long distance. He downloaded Bumble, justifying it by claiming he wanted to explore whether he could find someone better, despite still being in a relationship with me. Upon my relocation to the same city, I caught him sexting the woman he had hooked up with earlier, again justified by his insecurities about our intimate life. Initially aware of only the sexting incident, I later uncovered a series of cheating episodes throughout our relationship. Despite being devastated, as I believed we were deeply in love, he has since put forth efforts to change. He acknowledges his insecurities and poor communication skills, sharing his shame with his mother and close friends. Personal and couples therapy has been initiated, and he's been actively reassuring and loving. While I love him deeply, I grapple with the understanding that his actions have transformed me from a cheerful person to someone profoundly anxious and mentally distressed. Despite contemplating leaving, he convinces me to stay, emphasizing his commitment to change. While his actions seem convincing, the challenge lies in reconciling his past behavior with his present willingness to transform. I find myself torn between waiting to see if genuine change occurs and the undeniable compatibility we share, characterized by a year of harmonious living together without conflicts. The complexity of the situation leaves me uncertain about the best course of action. Third story, my girlfriend of 10 months has been cheating on me for 6 of them. Hey everyone, hope your morning is going better than mine. Just discovered that my girlfriend has been deceiving and cheating on me for the past 6 months. I never thought it could happen to me, ever. I loved her immensely, and she assured me countless times that she felt the same. Well, turns out that wasn't the case. Throughout the past 6 months, she's been cheating and lying to me while consistently seeking financial help. I ended up emptying my entire bank account over the span of 6 months to support her through her struggle. I believed that by doing this, I would demonstrate my strength and dedication to her, showcasing how much I loved her. But it all came crashing down this morning when she revealed that she has been living with and intimately involved with another man. They share a home, a dog, and a life together. She apologized for taking so long to disclose this information and wished the best for me. Now I have nothing. I gave my all to her, and now I'm left with nothing. My mind is grappling with 3 conflicting options: cry and endure the suffering while struggling to piece my life together financially, as I'm now facing challenges in paying rent; seek revenge, do everything in my power to make her experience the same pain I've endured not just now but for the past 6 months; retreat to isolation and wither away gradually. Food loses its taste, and the air doesn't feel the same. Any thoughts? This is the story of a decade-long marriage, unconventional choices, and the complex emotions that come with unexpected revelations. Wife wanted an open marriage to explore herself, now wants monogamy because I found someone better. I am 37M, married to my wife Laura, 36 Fahrenheit, for over a decade. We were neighbors initially before we started dating. Our first 5 to 6 years of marriage were great. We were so much in love with each other. We did everything together and barely needed anyone else to enjoy parties, trips, or games. We were each other's best partners. We deliberately made a choice to remain a childless couple. Like I said, we were so complete together that we never thought we needed a child to make us happy. However, as the years passed, our marriage went through the test of time. It started with the nagging feeling from my wife that our relationship was losing the spark and that we should do something to spice up things. Though I didn't feel it that way, I was still up to explore things with her. We tried different stuff, role plays, BDSM, and toys, all within the realm of a closed marriage. It was fun. She really enjoyed it whenever we did anything new but soon got bored with it. After some time, things took a turn when we were vacationing on an island country, and there was a massage parlor included in our stay. It wasn't a normal massage, but a private massage service from the opposite gender. It was weird, but Laura insisted we try it. I have taken massages from women before, but not bare naked. I asked Laura if she would be comfortable with a man massaging her private parts, and she grinned and yes. I stalled it for a couple of days, but Laura kept insisting. The day we were supposed to return, Laura pestered that we should try this once, and that there's nothing wrong with that. The masseurs are professionals and stuff like that. I gave in. I took the back massage. But when the lady got down, I stopped her and stepped out. However, Laura enjoyed it to the core. She was like, we should have done this before. And every day of our stay after that trip, she wanted more of it. She showed me various articles that suggested that couples should explore stuff together. It strengthens the bond. I looked up and found that couples were actually doing this. So yeah, we started including people in our beds. We started threesomes with professionals. Yes, there are professionals, both male and female, who helped coordinate things between couples. Gradually, she got bored of that too and proposed opening up the marriage. Basically, she wanted to hook up with normal people and not with paid professionals. She wanted to explore more of her sexuality. I was reluctant to get into this, but she promised that she would never bring anyone home and would never get emotionally attached to anyone. After a lot of discussion and millions of promises, I agreed. Laura was swift to find men who were ready to get into her. Not that I wasn't able to find any, but somehow I wasn't mentally prepared. Laura helped me set up the dating app, but I faltered in impressing the woman because I was looking for vibes. But the people using those dating websites needed only action. While Laura got to taste new blood every week or so, I barely got interested in any woman, and after a while, I stopped trying. I was just waiting for the day when Laura gets done with her exploration thing, and we get back to our normal life. The only reason why I let her continue that was because our relationship strengthened. We were more of friends than married couples. Our feelings for each other multiplied, and we were happy. On some days when she was gone, I used to flip in and out of the dating websites to look for potential people. Not that I never hooked up, but it was way less than Laura's count. and it was never fulfilling or joyous. I'm not trying to whitewash myself, but I'm not proud of doing all this. If I had a choice, I would have never gotten into it. Every time we had this stuff, I woke up with a heavy, uneasy feeling that I never wanted to do this. I wanted a monogamous, beautiful married life with my love, but Laura enjoyed it to the core. Even if I confronted my feelings, she would snap and say, "Grow up, we're already married. You're lucky to have a wife like me who lets you enjoy your life." Maybe she was right. Maybe there are men who wanted all this, but I didn't want it. Okay, enough of the background. Around a year back, I met this single mom. I'll skip the details of where, how, and when. She was also looking for something casual to move on from her bitter divorce. She's 37, call her M, and had recently divorced from her husband of 8 years. She wanted to meet me at a public place before going physical. She opened up about her past and confessed that she got into all these just to divert herself from the divorce trauma but didn't like going around with new people. She had the vibe I had been looking for. I told my story, and we instantly got connected. We had sex after that, and it was fulfilling. We started meeting more often, both indoors and outdoors. After a few months of seeing her, she told me that she had uninstalled all the dating apps and blocked everyone else after she started going out with me. Not that she wanted to prove any loyalty to me or wanted any from me, but she was just conveying her feelings to me. I too had stopped seeking other women after I met her, but I didn't tell her this. I didn't want to give any wrong signals. I loved Laura and had no plans of any serious relationship with him. This went on for a few more months, and I started feeling very guilty about it. Laura and I had set up ground rules that we wouldn't emotionally cheat, and if ever we felt anything for someone, we would confront each other. I felt I was cheating on Laura by getting emotionally attached to him, so I confessed this to Laura. She gave a very strange reaction. She said it happens, and I would gradually move on from him. I was happy that she didn't feel cheated, but I was worried that if I didn't move on from him, and instead I get more attached to her, I doubted that maybe I downplayed my feelings for M in front of Laura. A week ago, Laura came to me, and out of the blue, she said, "Let's stop all this." She wanted to close our marriage. I asked her the reason, and she said nothing, just that, "I don't feel right about it anymore." Had she said this before I met M, I would have gladly stopped it. But now I was loving the time with M and didn't want to stop that. I asked her the reason multiple times, but she didn't say anything. Out of desperation, I checked her phone, and I found something that gave chills to my bones. She was in love with a man and was planning to divorce me, and this was happening for over a year. They had already discussed the terms with a lawyer and were about to claim half of my property and other assets. But at the last moment, that man ditched Laura, saying he loved his wife and could not leave her. Laura pleaded with him a lot to stay, but he abandoned her, and that's why Laura came running to me and asked me to stop all this. She feared that I might leave her for M. I realized that Laura reacted normally when I told her about my feelings for M because she too was emotionally cheating on me and secretly planning to get rid of me. Of late, we both realized that we were drifting apart. Laura knew that it was M for me, but she was not concerned because she had this man. Now, I'm at a fix. What should I do? Should I close my marriage? I'm just done being Laura's puppet. Now she was the one who dragged me into this, and now when she's done enjoying it, she wants to pull me out too. Update 1. Thanks for all the comments. I appreciate both the good and bad. A few of you really gave me a good perspective through the PM. Thanks, buddy. So yeah, as I wrote in my previous post, I found Laura was in a relationship with a man and was planning on divorcing me. I too was seeing a woman, but I wasn't betraying Laura at all. I never said love you to M, nor had I planned on divorcing Laura. When she asked me to close the marriage, I pushed it back. It led to a fight where she accused me of cheating and sleeping with M. I retaliated, saying she was planning on divorcing me and all that. After a lot of fights, emotional manipulation, and tears, we both agreed to never see anyone else. I told M, and she was fine with it, though I could see the tears rolling down her cheeks. We were still 2 weeks into this, and I discovered that Laura had not left anything, and she was still doing it under my nose. I confronted her, and she confessed that she was scared that I might divorce her for M. She again tried to play this card of emotional manipulation, but I put my foot down and said I was done with her. To be honest, those 2 weeks of closed marriage were suffocating me. Laura was not the same woman anymore, nor was I the same man. Though I had stopped seeing M, deep down, I used to think about her. I found Laura too disinterested in the relationship. All these made me realize that my marriage is over and beyond repair. I said this to Laura, and she flipped out. Later, she confessed she was afraid of losing me but also couldn't remain monogamous. She wanted a commitment from me but wasn't ready to be committed yet. She was promising to get over it soon. I was just so done with it. I honestly confessed that I had fallen out of love with her and could not stay with her. She pleaded that we give a chance to our marriage, but I put my foot down and asked for a divorce. I have moved out of the house and have spoken to my lawyer to initiate the divorce proceedings. Initially, she was pleading for yet another chance, but now she has taken it into her ego and has stopped contacting me. I see her daily show on social media where she goes out with a new guy every day and is wasting herself. She hasn't blocked me, and I feel she is deliberately doing all this to make me feel jealous. She doesn't understand that my jealousy and insecurity phase are over. I have spent many years getting jealous of the men she used to spend time with, and now I care less about her and her lifestyle. After all this, I contacted him again. It was embarrassing for me, but she understood my situation. We have started meeting again, but I'm not putting my guard down and expressing my emotions for her. Taking it slow, I first want to deal with my divorce and take one at a time. And I'm never going to get into this open relationship kind of BS. I'm never going to suggest that to anyone. Second story. This story is about I found out my fiancé has been cheating on me throughout our entire relationship. I have been in a relationship with my fiancé for almost 3 years, and we recently welcomed our child in November. However, a few weeks before giving birth, I discovered that he had been making plans to travel out of town to be intimate with one of his friends around the time of my birthday. Unfortunately, this revelation was just the beginning of a more extensive pattern of infidelity. The earliest incident I personally witnessed occurred 11 months into our relationship. He cheated with someone I knew through a Discord server, and shortly after, I was removed from the server. He consistently omitted my presence in his life, or sometimes outright denied my existence. Shockingly, he even told one of his friends that I was a stalker, despite us living together. Additionally, I learned that he had stored explicit photos from various people, including his ex, a friend's wife, and an 18-year-old neighbor, all concealed in his email. The 18-year-old had spent a day at our home under the pretense of helping him with a car project. Despite my concerns, I chose to trust that nothing inappropriate would occur. Over time, I noticed a pattern in his behavior. He would distance himself from me, only to suddenly shower me with affection and declarations of love. Now, I realize this was just a feeble attempt to cover up his guilt. Every day, I find myself in our home, wondering when he will cheat again or manipulate his friends to portray me as a crazy person if I decide to leave. I've learned a valuable lesson about trusting my instincts and not blindly believing in someone just because I love them. This isn't the entire story, but I needed to share some of it, as I don't have anyone in my life to confide in. In summary, my fiancé and the father of my daughter is a serial cheater, and I'm unsure of how to proceed or what I truly feel. Today's story is about found my wife taking STD tests, hired a pie on her, and divorced her. I, a 49-year-old male, have been married to June, a 38-year-old female, for 6 years. She is my second wife. My first marriage lasted 15 years, and we have 2 kids together who are now 22 and 19. They both are in college now. My first wife and I shared custody of the children, but they lived with her before moving out for their colleges. Not to delve too much into the details about my first marriage, because it was a smooth show until we both fell out of love and decided to separate. Instead of cheating and making each other's lives bitter, we separated, and the children were living with her. I used to visit them on weekends, and we usually spent the holidays together at our house, so it was all cool. Obviously, we both dated different people and introduced them to our children. She got married to her colleague 7 years back, and during that same time, I met my second wife June at a common friend's party. She was working as an assistant to a physiotherapist. We dated for a few months, and then she moved in with me. She wanted to get married, and I didn't see any problem with that. I had moved on a lot from my first divorce. My first wife had also gotten married, and my children were very open and accepting of June. We have a very normal relationship. June didn't want kids, and I was fine with that. I already had 2 from my first marriage, and raising them was already a task for me financially, though I earned decently. The soaring high school fees cannot be ignored. June worked for a year or so after the wedding, and then she quit and took up her passion for gardening. Anyways, that's all the context about our background. A few days back, June had to visit the passport office for renewal, and she was searching for some of her documents. She scavenged through all her document files and created a mess out of the closet. She was running late for her passport interview. She somehow put back stuff however she could and rushed. When she was gone, I thought of cleaning the mess and found an STD test report from months ago. It was quite shocking to me because June never mentioned taking that test. I tried to remember if we had anything unusual in that month, but nothing came to my mind. I kept that report aside, thinking to ask her directly when she returned, and started arranging the closet. After a while, I got a call from June asking me if I had left for work. I said no. Before I could say anything else, she asked me not to touch her closet and that she would come back and clean it up herself. I asked her why not. She said she doesn't like closet arrangements done by others because she doesn't find her stuff back. I said okay. She was still on her way to the passport office. Usually, I wouldn't have gotten suspicious of her request, but after finding that test report, this call made me doubt her intentions. I went through all the fields carefully, and in one of the old files, I found a stack of STD reports. Going through them, I realized that the tests were taken every 3 months, and the first test report date was 7 to 8 years ago, way before we got married or knew each other. It was just so shady and weird. I took pictures of all the tests and kept everything as it was. I even left the closet cluttered as she had left and also placed back the report where I had found them. I went to work and got a call from her again asking if I had left for work. I said yes. She didn't call me after that. When I went back home, she was there and the closet was cleaned up already. She asked me if everything was fine, and I nodded yes. While having dinner, she asked me if I tried to clean up the mess she had left. I wanted to say no, but I realized that I had folded up a few of her clothes. I said yes, just a few of the stuff, but stopped when you called and asked me not to touch it. The panic was evident on her face, but she hid it wisely. I think she wanted to ask if I found something in there, but she resisted. Instead, she asked me if everything was okay because I was unusually silent. I said yes, everything is fine. I counter-questioned her, asking if there was anything that was supposed to upset me. She was taken aback for a moment with my response, but she just said no, nothing. I feel my answer has made her suspicious that I know about her secret. So basically, we both are playing mind games with each other. She's trying to find out if I know, and I keep her anxious until she confesses. To be honest, I don't know why I didn't confront her regarding those reports. I don't have any plans on how to proceed with this information or how to interpret this. I don't know why she's been taking these STD tests regularly. If I have to link this to her cheating, then does it mean she has been cheating on me forever? If not, why was she hiding this information from me? Did anyone face a similar situation with their partner? Thanks much. Update. Thanks for all the relevant links related to the STD tests. It was helpful. I also read all those cheating stories on Reddit involving STD tests, and one of the confessions helped me weave my plan to dig out the truth about my wife. It was a no-brainer, yet I never thought about that angle that it would work. I hired a pie on my wife and found some gut-wrenching truth. It came out that she was into regular hookups. She was actually kicked out from her last job as an assistant to a physiotherapist because she was hooking up with his patients. And a few of them, or rather their wives, complained that she was the one making advances on the men, following them on social media, asking them out for dates, and then obviously pulling them inside her skirts. Not only this, she was sacked from a few more jobs because of similar reasons. I don't know how these things were not caught in her background verification by her employers. Usually, they run a background check before hiring people. Anyways, how could I blame others when I myself fell into this trap? I too never ran a check on her before dating or even marrying her. Not trying to be a hero here, but it's true that she was the one who made advances towards me when we first met. Yes, I was attracted too, but she was an easy catch, that's what I thought. But actually, I was an easy catch for her. When we started going out, I even asked her why she was interested in me, seeing that I was divorced with 2 kids and 11 years older than her, whereas she was young and never had been married. She said she has a thing for older men, she finds them attractive. She feels very protected and secure to be with me. That made me feel good about myself. Honestly, now I realize if I should have taken this to be a red flag. God knows if this is the case, we have to go on suspecting everyone for their choices. Even with all the information in hand, I was still contemplating how to confront her. You see, we never had a problem in our relationship, apart from the fact that she was hooking up, which is obviously a deal breaker for me. I mean, I have read in other cases that the wife turns wicked and their behavior changes, and their relationship gets bitter before the truth comes out. But in my case, I never noticed any change in her, maybe because she had been pulling this off right from the start of our relationship. So, instead of running behind her and catching her red-handed, I laid down my cards in front of her. I printed out the STD reports I had shot on my phone and laid it in front of her and asked her about it. To my surprise, she didn't flip out. And her calmness actually freaked me out. She was more like, "Oh, you know, I had this feeling that you discovered these reports on that day. So if you have taken this long to confront me, I'm sure you have dug up the other details." I nodded, "Yep, I know everything." She asked me, "What's next?" She was upset but not remorseful. I asked her what was going on in her mind and why she cheated on me. Was I not enough? Her take on this entire thing creeped me out. She said she never considered that to be cheating. It's a part of her lifestyle. She does that without any emotional attachment. It's just for fun and to make her feel good. I asked her why she didn't tell me about this if she didn't consider this to be wrong. She said she was honest with her past boyfriends about this, but no one with serious feelings was ready to accept her secret life. She asked me if I would have let her do that outside of marriage. I said no, and I got my answer. She said marrying me gave her a stable life, and since I was older than her and already had kids, she didn't have to bear a child for me, and she could continue doing things in her fantasy world. For a moment, I felt she was suffering from some borderline personality or something. I even wanted to probe her more and suggest therapy or something. But then I backed off. I said I wanted a divorce because I consider this to be cheating. She was crying but not requesting forgiveness or reconciliation. She asked me about the maintenance, and I agreed to 6 months of maintenance and some additional money for her to set up a place for herself. She agreed and moved out. It was smooth but heartbreaking for me. This was my second marriage, and this too led to a disaster. While moving out, she was also crying and hugging me, apologizing for hurting me. But I resented taking her back. I just told her that she should have been honest about her sexuality, and it could have saved the heartbreak. She said sorry and left. I met my lawyer and discussed the matter with him. Since June and I have already decided and agreed upon the divorce terms, the lawyer assured me it shouldn't take long. The papers are on the way and will be shipped to her anytime soon. I told my children and my first wife about the divorce thing but didn't disclose the reason. They are asking me the reason because it all happened so suddenly. There are no perceivable problems in our marriage, and suddenly I told them that June had moved out, and we were getting divorced. So, obviously, they would freak out. To avoid their pestering, I have been telling them she too fell out of love with me and making a joke out of it. My first marriage also crumbled because we fell out of love, remember? So yeah, I'm just using humor to dodge the question around my second divorce. I don't know what the future holds for me, but now I'm pretty sure that I'm unlucky in marriage, and I'm not doing this again. Second story, caught my BF cheating. He doesn't know I know yet. This is a short story. In short, we've been dating for 7 months, and everything seemed great until he left for vacation with his best friend. While taking care of his cat, I stumbled upon his old iPhone, which we turned on and discovered still worked. Despite turning it off and putting it back, it continued to make noise, prompting me to check. Worried due to recent odd behavior and unsettling dreams, I found messages on the old phone from a sex app, starting right after he landed on vacation. Now, he's coming home in 2 days, unaware that I know. I've texted him about needing to talk, but he hasn't seen it yet. I'm torn between suggesting he takes an Uber to his apartment from the airport and meeting him to return his keys, or leaving behind the gold-engraved bracelet he gave me for Christmas and reclaiming my belongings from his apartment while he's away. Third story, my GF of 2 years cheated on me with my friend. I find myself grappling with an overwhelming sense of heartbreak, an emotion entirely new to me. My girlfriend and I have shared nearly 2 years together, marked by recent difficulties. We've been inseparable during this time, deeply in love, and we are parents to our 6-month-old son. Recently, tensions arose, and we weren't getting along. Despite our love for each other, we decided that maybe some space was necessary to rekindle the missing spark. In agreement, I gave her the apartment for the night and headed to my mom's. Unfortunately, my mom, uncle, and sister live together. Finding them intoxicated upon arrival, I stayed there, assuming my girlfriend would be asleep when I returned. Upon coming back, I discovered her watching Euphoria, a show we typically enjoy together. On the coffee table lay a set of keys, 2 Dr. Peppers, and 2 White Claws. I never thought such a situation would happen to me. I'd only seen it in videos. I casually inquired and carried on, trying to push aside any suspicions. She was acting oddly, and when I asked if she was upset about my early return, she responded with silence. Suddenly, she mentioned that a friend was in our kitchen, having come over just to smoke. My heart shattered at this revelation. Inviting him out, I asked if anything happened between them. Both denied it, and he left. She insists it wasn't anything and that nothing was going to happen, but I feel defeated and lost. Unsure of how to move forward or overcome this, my ex's hometown is an hour away. Her family is well off, and our own financial struggles complicate things. I can't maintain the apartment alone, leaving me in a challenging situation. I apologize if this comes off as a rant, and I understand it may not be the most engaging read. Unfortunately, I lack someone to talk to about these issues. My grandma passed away 2 months ago, and my girlfriend has been my support throughout the healing process, a process I'm still working on. Right now, I just feel incredibly lost. I could never think of anyone being able to cheat on me. I can't say exactly why I had that thought. Maybe it was my upbringing. Maybe it was my environment. Ever since I was a kid, I was one hell of an adorable kid. My mother was a regular winner in contests like Miss Bikini, so it wasn't surprising that some of her beauty genes were passed down to me. My father was no slouch either, having been one of the most enviable suitors in the neighborhood when he was young. Even before I was born, none of our family friends doubted that I would be attractive. At the age of 2, I began to be photographed for various children's magazines. Many mothers were fascinated by my light blue eyes and curly golden curls. It was because of my looks that I was able to start my career at such a young age. Some haters assumed that my beauty would gradually fade with the years. Fortunately, they turned out to be quite wrong. I only got better every year. Beginning in elementary school, the girls would not give me a pass. Slowly but surely I ate the quivering hearts of women. Of course, many boys did not like my popularity, because of which there were periodic conflicts. In high school, things got worse. Under the effect of jealousy, some boys challenged me to fights or something similar. The girls didn't interest me much, so I tried to ignore such pranks. All my relationships were not serious. My parents often scolded me for this, because, in their opinion, it was categorically wrong to abuse beauty. "Charlie, don't be a womanizer," said my mother kindly. "It's very unkind and not serious at all." "Yes, Mom, you better find yourself some nice girl. I am sure there are plenty of such ladies these days." "Okay, Mom," but at the time I didn't listen to that kind of moralizing. I kept segregating girls by their looks, because I wasn't attracted to anything else about them at all. When I graduated high school, my appetites grew. My surroundings changed, with models replacing cheerleaders. I walked the catwalk myself for a while, but not for long. I was invited to several auditions for a movie. I didn't want to refuse, because you can't put beauty on bread. I had to work in order to live a good and comfortable life. Surprisingly, I got my first audition in my life, and so began my ascent to stardom. With each new role, I became more and more in demand actor. With the money, I was also becoming more desirable groom. The golden age of my youth began. I met different, interesting ladies, and spent a lot of free time with them. Not a single club was left without my visit. I loved going there, as it was possible to meet a lot of attractive and pretty girls. That's how I met my first wife. We lived together for a short time, but thanks to her I was able to finally formulate the requirements for a potential soulmate. We lived with my second wife for a little longer, about 7 months. I can't say for sure anymore, but earlier there was probably a reason why we couldn't continue our relationship with her, and it kept repeating itself. I had several other wives that I never really connected with. Fortunately, these failures lasted until I met Molly. She was not much different from my previous spouses, but she still had a twist. We met at a priest's screening of a movie where I played a supporting role. That day I was not given much attention, which I was very pleased with. I was in a positive frame of mind, and I was talking to my buddies on the set. I was passionate about the conversation, but at one point, all thoughts completely vanished from my head, and it was because I noticed Molly. She was an incredibly beautiful girl. I instantly experienced an attraction to her person as well as the beautiful forms that fell into my eye. "Excuse me, could you give me a few minutes of your time?" I politely inquired of the girl as she approached me. Her wide smile enchanted me. "What kind of question?" she asked in response. "You seem very attractive to me, so I wanted to enjoy your company. Alas, I am married. In that case, it's a great reason to file for divorce from your husband." It was with this phrase that it all started. At first, I did not expect my new acquaintance to react in any way to my proposal. Those words were spoken under the influence of several glasses of champagne. In a moment of slight intoxication, I bet too much on my appearance, and it turned out that my pretty face did not play the least part. Molly and I met secretly on the terrace. It was apparent almost at once that she was more than indifferent to her husband, but it was not for me to judge her, for I had not done very well either. "What is your name?" I asked. "Molly Brown, charming name, and how did you get here? What brings you to tonight's screening?" "Well, I'm not really interested in movies, but my husband is a screenwriter. I often attend events of a similar format with him. However, for my vocation I am an online model." I smiled happily as I was just expecting to hear a similar answer. "You didn't surprise me. With your adorable green eyes, it's no wonder you're modeling. I've never met a woman as graceful and seductive as you, Molly." We flirted for another 10 minutes, but my new acquaintance had to go to her husband. We exchanged numbers as we should have, and then we never saw each other again that day. After that, I saw Molly very often. Of course, our meetings were secret, but they didn't last long. After 2 months, she easily left her husband to spend more time with me. I took this quite normally because I knew that she was attracted not only to me, but also to my money. As long as I didn't run out of it, Molly would always be chasing my tail. I had a lot of fun with this girl. I've rarely had a similar experience with a member of the female sex. Maybe she's my destiny, I sometimes thought, and then shoved the intrusive thoughts away. I still struggled with doubts for a long time, but it was over as soon as Molly made her first move. "Charlie, I love you," Molly said. We were cuddled up in my bed. It was a very intimate moment. "Why don't you answer me, and I love you?" "Really, of course. Can I give you any other answer?" On Molly's face, you could see an extreme degree of human satisfaction. It was probably the answer she'd been waiting to hear. I was very happy, too. There were butterflies in my stomach. "So maybe we should get married?" Molly asked me out of the blue. "What, marry?" I was a little stunned that our relationship was growing so fast. I was also a little intimidated by the prospect of marriage. Knowing what Molly had done to her ex-husband, I didn't feel like putting our relationship on the books. What if this woman wanted to divorce me in the future and take some of my property as she had done with her ex-husband? "Don't you want to?" Molly asked me pitifully. and I really had trouble answering that question. However, I found some arguments as to why marriage was not such a bad idea. I do, I said. Then are we getting married? Yes, when will the wedding be? Whenever you want, of course. The wedding ceremony was literally the following week. I couldn't understand why Molly was in such a hurry to ask. Perhaps she even had some ulterior motive. But there was no point in thinking about what was done and what I myself had signed up for. We had a lavish wedding. Many successful and famous guests were invited, which couldn't help but please my ego. Molly's dress looked absolutely adorable. Looking at her that day, I felt as if I would fall in love with her with the purest of love. Our married life together began. I dreaded this phase because I was very familiar with it. It was during this period that conflicts begin between couples. I more or less knew what to expect, so I felt invulnerable in the hands of my woman, and Molly turned out to be a wonderful wife. At least, that's what it seemed to me and my family. She didn't cause any unnecessary problems, and she was very discreet in public. This aspect played almost the main role because I was still a media personality. By attending various events as my date, Molly gradually began to gain more popularity. It was the greatest joy for her. Gradually, I began to gain respect for my spouse, as she proved to be a very calculating and forward-thinking person. Molly was often interested in our financial situation. In most cases, she was the one who took the initiative to buy various stocks. I had nothing against it, for some things were simply too much for me to think about on my own. I did not suspect my wife of cheating, for there was absolutely no reason to do so. Molly always remained cheerful and attentive to me. I was calm, but one day a very interesting event happened that made me question the honesty of my dear wife. We were making love. All was well, and nothing foretold trouble. I felt completely at peace. Together we were beginning to peak. Molly was beginning to scream. Oh, more? Yes, Thomas. I was very surprised, since my name was Charlie. This little misunderstanding confused me. Without stopping, I began to wonder why I was named Thomas. Molly's groans subsided. When I noticed the look on her face, it was clear she was tense. Apparently, my wife hoped I hadn't heard anything. Why, Thomas? I asked. What? You called me Thomas. I accidentally, out of habit. That was my ex-husband's name. I didn't answer. I was offended. But a little mistake like that can't be a sign of real infidelity. I decided to just forget about what had happened. And I thought I had made the right choice because there were no further problems. If I had started to get caught up, it probably wouldn't have affected me in the best way. It wasn't until 9 years later that my suspicions started to arise again. A similar situation happened only with a different name. Our Stan, my intoxicated wife, moaned during one of our nights together. It was after this incident that I began to wonder about my wife's fidelity. I specifically remembered that name my wife accidentally uttered. My mind seemed to be possessed, for I could not think of other things. A surveillance of Molly began. I hired a private detective to follow my wife. Only there was no point, because my wife accidentally spotted him herself. Watching an unknown man of stalking, she filed a police report. From that moment, the cooperation with the private detective ended. I was to deal with my own suspicions. I came up with the most usual idea. I spied the password to Molly's phone and then stole it for a while. I had to get right to the point, so my wife wouldn't get suspicious. The search did not last long, because the first correspondence in the phone was with one Stan. On the dialogue immediately became clear for what purpose my wife was communicating with him. Can we meet today? The man asked. I think not. Charlie wanted to go to a restaurant with me. Tomorrow then. Okay, we'll do the usual at the hotel. Done. I also picked up a few juicy topics of conversation. My wife was shamelessly sending intimate photos of herself to a stranger. I was furious, because these were the same pictures she was sending me. I had to take drastic action. On the same day, I decided to break up with his wife, because I had no desire to keep her after all the things she did behind my back. We have to break up, I said on one of the most ordinary days. But why? I know you were cheating on me. Charlie, you got it all wrong. That's enough. Is this what you do to me after all the years I put up with and helped you? Did you have any gratitude? My wife said indignantly. And what should I be grateful to you for? That all this time I have been with you and helped you. I even left my husband for you, Molly. All you needed was an excuse. I'm sorry. Please, I was wrong. I didn't know why I did what I did. It's not true. I'll never do it again. It was just a stupid mistake. With the influence of my own emotions, I was still able to forgive my wife. We were together for a while, but my feelings were no longer as sincere as before. So I decided that at the first opportunity one would leave my wife right away. That chance came very quickly. That same year I met a new girl. In the old scheme of things I was able to impress her. What was Molly's surprise when I filed for divorce? But why? She asked. I thought we had it all worked out. I found a new girl for me, and you're just ready to trade me in for someone else. Just like a thing, you left me no choice. We started a complicated legal battle. Over the years we'd been together, we'd accumulated a lot of property together, which made the process more complicated. It was clear from Molly's actions that she wanted to rip me off, except, luckily, I had hired a very good lawyer. It ended up that my wife was not able to cheat me. Even on the contrary, she was very unlucky because most of the property was written down in my name. Now my ex-wife has found herself a new man. However, being twice divorced, she ceased to be a desirable target for many young men. Well, I forgot about Molly very quickly, and I hope that I will never think of her again in the future. Second story. About a month ago, my wife and I attended her Christmas work party at a bar close to her workplace. We had initially agreed not to stay for an extended period, considering my early commitments the next morning. Upon arrival, we parked in her work parking lot and walked to the bar. Given our responsibilities with several small kids, such nights out were infrequent, and with the kids at Nana's, my wife was enjoying the evening. Around 10 p.m., I suggested leaving, noticing my wife was getting fairly tipsy. However, her work girlfriends encouraged her to stay. She asked if I minded, and I agreed, opting for an Uber ride home since her work was covering the costs. Arriving home, I went to sleep, but around 3:30 a.m., I woke up to find my wife still absent. Calls and texts went unanswered, and discovering that the bar had closed at 2 a.m., concern set in. Worried something might have happened, I decided to drive back to the bar, calling multiple times in the hope she'd answer, but she never did. Upon reaching the bar, I saw her car in the parking lot with the lights on and engine running. Pulling up behind her, I got out, walked up to the window, and peered inside. Complete shock overcame me as it seemed my brain couldn't process what my eyes were witnessing. My wife was shirtless, leaning over, providing oral sex to a guy in the passenger seat. In disbelief, I forcefully opened the car door, exclaiming, "What the?" My wife, heavily intoxicated, retorted, "We're just talking." Carrying a pocket knife, I opened it, pointing it at him, declaring, "You're dead." Furious, I stormed around to the passenger side, yanked the door open, and confronted him. He apologized, hands up, as I grabbed him and forcefully pulled him out of the car. After a stumble, he hastily pulled up his pants and scurried away. Meanwhile, I faced my wife, inebriated with her exposed chest, questioning, "How could you do that?" She insisted they were just talking. I helped her put her shirt back on and drove her home. I spent the night on the couch, sleeping little. The next morning, she claimed no recollection of the incident, leaving me uncertain about its truth or her choice to feign forgetfulness. It's been about a month, and I'm grappling with mixed emotions about her and our 8-year marriage, which includes 3 kids. The path forward remains unclear. Third story, so here's my story. I'm a regular 16-year-old guy in high school, currently a junior. I'm not antisocial, but I'm not a fan of loud, giant crowds unless I'm close to the people in them. One day, I went to a party thrown by a friend, and there I met a girl who also attended our school. She was a freshman, and I found her to be the cutest girl I had ever met. We got along well that night, but nothing significant happened. Later at school, we crossed paths again, hung out more, exchanged numbers, and discovered shared interests. We went on dates, played video games, and I started thinking she was perfect. Her family was overprotective, but they liked me because I was a decent guy, funny and gentle. My only flaw was being a bit shy and insecure, as I had never asked out a girl this cute. Things were going well until one day, she distanced herself a bit. It turned out that a guy had asked her out, and they started dating. I wasn't angry with her, just disappointed in myself. Ironically, the day she changed, I bought her a necklace and was planning to confess my feelings. Despite her having a boyfriend, we continued hanging out. She seemed a bit too comfortable with me, but nothing happened. After about a month, she broke up with her boyfriend, and I comforted her. A few weeks later, I confessed my feelings to her, and she admitted to liking me even before her previous relationship. She wanted time to heal, and I respected that. I gave her the necklace, and her friend later told me she cried tears of happiness. We started going on dates, doing things together, and it felt like we were a couple. Her family liked me a lot. However, when I went on a week-long field trip to explore colleges in Florida, things changed. We chatted less than I expected, but nothing seemed odd. When I returned, she was a bit distant, but still sweet. Approaching Valentine's Day, I asked her out, and she hesitated, saying she didn't want to go out but might do something. This didn't sound like her. During that week, I bought her 2 presents and kept them a secret. 2 days before Valentine's Day, I offered to walk her home, but she declined, citing the Miami sun. That afternoon, I saw her kissing another guy from school. The pain hit me hard, and I felt empty. I resisted lashing out, walked home, and blocked her from everywhere. I ignored her pleas to talk, leaving her confused. Some friends supported me, while others thought I was exaggerating. It hurt that she betrayed me after making me wait, but I chose to keep to myself and block her out. Was I wrong to ignore her?